Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have something very cool to take a look at. We have a brand new V-Rex figure out, and this is actually by a company that some of you may be pretty familiar with, some of you may not be. This is by a company called, and I'm probably going to mispronounce it, Oenux or something along those lines. It is a Chinese company that releases tons and tons of dinosaurs over there. But the problem with that company is a lot of them are bootlegs, and it always makes you kind of suspicious of the figures they release, makes you wonder if it is a bootleg or if it's an original figure. And this one instantly kind of, when I had first seen it, drew a little bit of a red flag for me because I thought it might be a Nanmu bootleg, but I have the Nanmu V-Rex, and I've taken a look at it with this one. Very, very few similarities, so I don't think it's bootlegged from that. Then I consider maybe the reborn version. Also looked at those. Definitely not a bootleg of that. So it is an original figure, or to my knowledge at the very least, and it looks really cool. And what's even cooler about the fact that this is a V-Rex is now that means that if you combine the reborn, the Nanmu, and this version, you have three different V-Rex figures that all have, a little bit of a different look to them to kind of create your own version of a pack of V-Rex like you see in the Peter Jackson King Kong film. There were like a lot of V-Rex in there, so you can create your own, little pack of V-Rex. But the figure as a whole is actually really quite neat, very sizable, and definitely quite nice looking as a whole. So let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look right now. So starting up here at the head of our V-Rex, you can see some really nice detailing. Like the scale detail is pretty darn vibrant on the figure. It definitely pops pretty nicely. Not quite as nice as you would see on like, PNSO or something, or Nanmu or Rebor, anything like that, but it does have some pretty nice detail, and the sculpt as a whole looks pretty good if you ask me. Very V-Rex-like. You can see some pretty nice detailing there around the eye, and the eyes actually have some nice paintwork, as we have a reddish tone that kind of circles around the eye, and then a yellow and a black pupil, and the eye actually does have a gloss coat. And there's quite a bit of variation of color that you see here on the face, as you have some like variations of blues and like bluish greens and quite a bit of darker and lighter tones, which definitely looks nice. You've got the nostrils sculpted right there. It almost kind of appears to have like a wash, like, I don't know if it's a wash or if they've dry brushed the detail over, but you can kind of see like some variations of like light browns and stuff kind of underneath the scales, which I really, really like. We do have an articulated jaw on the model, and another thing that I definitely enjoy is the fact that there's kind of like, of course you have like this maroonish color on the inside, you have a pretty nicely textured tongue in there, and you have those classic V-Rex type teeth that are kind of like all over the place, pretty inconsistent as far as their placement goes, which is exactly how the dinosaurs look in the film. But it also kind of has like that maroonish color that runs here out around the side of the mouth, and it makes it look like it's been feasting on something, so it kind of has like that bloody look all around the mouth. And that is definitely something I enjoy. You can see the skin flap there on the inside of the mouth as well. Sports some pretty nice detail. Kind of has like a maroon or dark reddish wash in there as well, which helps to amplify the detail. So the inside of the mouth definitely looks nice, and you can see potentially the inside, there we go, on the upper side also has some pretty nice detail. So shockingly well done. And you can see when I was just over here a minute ago that the eye is painted very nicely over here as well, like really, really nicely painted eyes. And you've also got that same style of detailing and paintwork. Let's see if the mouth will close all the way. Yeah, pretty much the same way that it was. Yeah, I'd say it looks like it did when I first tried to open it. It felt like it was kind of giving me a little bit of a problem. It looks like the jaw might be slightly kind of crooked, or the teeth don't line up perfectly to close, but it's not too bad. As you move back here into the neck region, again, you continue to have those really large, kind of classic V-Rex style scales. You also have that sort of like armored-like look to the back of the dinosaur. You've got like, I guess there's skin wrinkles here running down. They almost look like they're meant to be incredibly large veins, but my guess would be more like skin wrinkles. You have the throat here running along the underside of the dinosaur, as well as again some more of those scales looking pretty much the same through the course of the figure as far as that same style of scaling, until we reach down here, and then you have of course that armored type of a look running down along the shoulder, which is something you do see on the V-Rex in the film. And then you have like a little bit of a different style of scaling here in the stomach region. And I will say, I don't think I dig the scale work too much here in the stomach, but at the same time, it doesn't look terrible. It looks pretty good. And you have that same style of kind of like very large looking skin wrinkles and skin folds down here. I love that they've applied some really nice paintwork though. Like you can see darker tones and lighter tones. Like they've done a good job of kind of making it look lifelike. And you can see the lighter, kind of like a light yellow or an off-white in the stomach region and the neck region and everything. So that really amps up the detail quite nicely in those areas. Like you can really pick out the scale detail and how good it looks. And then as you move down into the arm, you do have the 3 fingers like you do see on those dinosaurs in the film. You also have some variations of brown picking up as you move out the length of the hand into the fingers. We have painted nails with a gray, but they're not too well done. They're a little bit sloppy, I will definitely say that. As we move back up again to the back of the dinosaur, you continue to see that heavily armored type of a scoot-like look running down the back of the V-Rex. You've got the hip bone nicely elaborated right there. And then moving down into the thigh, you can kind of pick out the muscle definition of the thigh. Again, those very large armored-like scales moving down, as well as, again, some nice paintwork. You can even see a striping picking up here with it's a very, very subtle and smooth application of those stripes, but it looks really good. You can see the seam where the knee is connected, but that's not a big deal to me. You can also see a very large bulging calf muscle, really smooth transitions as we lead back into the, alternate tones of color. You have some scoots running down the course of the shin, down into the feet. You've got some nice scoots running down the toes as well. The nails don't really seem to have any specific paint. It's kind of just the coloration. Like the foot transitions to a really dark blue or a dark gray, and that's just the same color that we have for the nails. We do have dew claws and everything present, though, which is a huge plus. And then moving back up into the tail, you have a few more skin wrinkles and stuff right there. Again, the seam for the tail is present, but not too bad. And then moving out the length of the tail, we have this exact same style of detailing. As you lead out the length of the tail, it just kind of decreases in size, which is fairly reminiscent to what you see on a V-Rex. Not my favorite area of the figure, but it looks okay. The underside it's alright. Like back here, it doesn't really look that great. Kind of has like a little bit of a generic look as far as the detailing goes. But then once you reach the stomach area, you do get some pretty nice looking scales and everything picking up, especially those clusters of scales in the chest and then leading down into the middle of the stomach. It does look really quite nice. The opposing side, of course, has pretty much the same thing going on, but you can see a turn in the head of the dinosaur. It is turning its head to the right. The arm here is in a slightly different position compared to what we see on the opposing side, and the leg is also stepping forward over here more so than what we see on the opposing side. But detail-wise, everything looks pretty much the same. I like that there's even like some variations of browns showing up in the feet, so we have a little bit of color there, color variation, I should say. And again, the detailing looks pretty much the same over here. Paintwork looks pretty much the same, but you can see that we have kind of like a striping effect leading out into the tail. We did see that on the opposing side as well. I just didn't really point it out over there, so I wanted to mention it now. But again, you have the skin wrinkles back there, the same style of detail. You do have a curve in the tail, and the tail does touch. That's kind of the way it holds up and stands up. It doesn't balance on its own without the use of the tail, as far as I've noticed so far anyway. But it's a really cool figure, actually. It's way nicer than I was expecting it to be, and it's only right around like the $16, $17 range, so for a V-Rex this large, with some pretty decent paintwork, I think it's actually a pretty good deal. The only thing it could have used would be a little bit more precise paintwork on the nails, and then maybe like a gloss coat in the mouth and on the blood, but outside of those areas, it's definitely a pretty fun V-Rex. As far as the size goes, and again, it's definitely pretty big. For a length, you were looking at about 13.5 inches, or right around 34, a little over 34 centimeters. And then for a height, a little bit shy, just like a hair shy of 7 inches or 18 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Oenux V-Rex, and you can definitely see, again, like I was saying, it does sport a pretty big size. It's definitely a bit on the taller side, and overall has a very impressive amount of body mass, so a pretty big figure. And then when it comes to V-Rex figures, no collection is complete without the Reborn version, which is also one of the most bootlegged figures apparently in China, because I see bootlegs of that one constantly, that poor V-Rex. But you can definitely see, again, a very, very different design and appearance when it comes to the Reborn version compared to this newer Oenux version. But you can also see, again, that they are really cool looking together. I think they definitely create a really fun diorama, and they are a fairly similar size overall. And then my all-time favorite V-Rex figure, we have the Nanmu version here. next to this Oenux version. And of course, there is no comparison when it comes to quality between these two. The Nanmu is far superior in every way, but the newer version here from Oenux is also really quite nice. It definitely has a beautiful sculpt to it for the most part. Maybe not the best detail out there on the tail, but it still looks pretty good, and again is a fairly similar size to the Nanmu version. And this is the one that I was originally like really concerned about being potentially a bootleg, but like when you get close here and you look at the detail between the two, like if you look at the entire way that the head sculpt looks on this Oenux version compared to the Nanmu version, everything is really quite different. Everything, even including the way that the teeth look, is really quite different, and that does not cease there. It is pretty much the same way through the entire course of the body. I think, honestly, the only thing that might look similar would be the feet. Kind of look similar, but they look better, obviously, on the Nanmu version. The toes are a little bit further apart, whereas the toes are a little bit closer together on the Oenux version. So I don't really know. I don't think that they're even remotely related, but they do really look quite cool together. So, as you guys probably already know, I love finding these random figures on AliExpress. It's such a joy for me to find a new one, and they're not always the best figures in the world, that's for sure. A lot of them are actually really bad, but every once in a while you find, like kind of like some gold hidden in there, and I feel like that's exactly what this V-Rex is. Although it's definitely not near as nice as the Nanmu or the Rebor version, it's a pretty fun version of a V-Rex with a pretty impressive size for a decent price. It's fairly cheap when it comes to a dinosaur figure this big. The sculpt is definitely nicely done through the course of the figure. I think they did a pretty good job overall as far as replicating what a V-Rex looks like, and definitely looks like they put some effort into the sculpt. It's not, again, your best V-Rex sculpt out there, but it looks pretty good as a whole. The only thing and the only area I think I'm not a huge fan of is the detailing out onto the tail, because it just looks a little bit more generic than what we see elsewhere, but excluding that area as a whole, I definitely like the sculpt. And the paint job as well is pretty impressively well done for something like this. Like, the paint was really precise there in the eyes. The paint on the inside of the mouth looks nice. I like the blood effect around the mouth. The teeth are a little bit sloppy, but at the same time, because they kind of have that reddish paint there on them, they don't look sloppy, if that makes sense, because it kind of looks like it's just blood on the teeth. But I think that might just be some paint mishaps originally, but you can really take it however you want it, so it kind of looks like it's just got a bloody mouth. And I love that they've applied quite a bit of different varying tones of color through the figure, and giving it like some nice striping and everything. It really is quite a nice paint job. Not, again, as nice as Nanmu or Rebor, but for what it is, it definitely has a nice paint job. And you have an articulated jaw, which actually works pretty nicely. So as a whole, it's a really cool V-Rex figure with a decent size that definitely is a nice companion piece to the Nanmu and Rebor versions if you want to create, a pretty good group or pack, I guess you could say, of V-Rex. So if you are interested in this, I will include a link in the description to where I purchased this on AliExpress, and they had delivered it to me lightning fast. When it comes to getting a figure from China to here, it usually takes me like a month, maybe even a little over. This was here in like 2 weeks, so I was really impressed with the speed of the delivery of this one. I normally am waiting forever when it comes to models from China, but this one and another figure that I had ordered from the same store arrived very quickly, and the other one will be up for review here as well very soon. So if you are interested in this, again, make sure you check the link in the description, pick this up, and make sure you also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.